And we now turn to the Ray Rice case. The NFL, under pressure, has announced that former FBI Director Robert Mueller, he will lead an independent investigation into the case. Mueller is going to have access to all NFL records and is working to determine what the league knew about the incident between Rice and his wife that we all saw play out first outside the elevator and then, of course, in that recent video within the elevator at Atlantic City. Now, the NFL says it never saw this video that you see here, and we've all unfortunately seen it too often, Rice knocking out his wife. But tonight, TMZ, which is the ones who first purchased the video, they report that the NFL did in fact watch the video. New Jersey law enforcement officials saying that they sent the league the video 3 months ago, and they even have an audio recording that says, saw the tape, it's terrible, and that was from the NFL offices. They maintain, again, that's coming from the prosecutors in New Jersey. For his part, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, he told CBS's Norah O'Donnell he never saw the tape.
So did anyone in the NFL see the second videotape before Monday?
No.
No one in the NFL?
No one in the NFL, to my knowledge, and I've been asked that same question, and the answer to that is no. We were not granted that. We were told that that was not something we would have access to. On multiple occasions we asked for it, and multiple occasions we were told no.
Now again, he gave that interview before we heard from Associated Press that prosecutors in New Jersey said, in fact, they did share it with the league. Now, the league does maintain it only saw a video of Rice from this point on dragging his wife out of the elevator. As you know, Rice suspended originally for 2 games following the release of the tape here, but now it is an indefinite suspension, and he was released from his team. We'll get to this story in a second, guys, but the NFL obviously has got other issues. Greg Hardy, and then a defensive lineman, a star in this league, continuing to play, even though he's under, he first was indicted, and now he's insisting on a jury trial in North Carolina for an even more horrific case, if you believe the allegations against him for domestic abuse. In fact, of the arrests of NFL players, more than 54% of those arrests are all domestic violence related. Okay, you've been involved, investigation, attorney yourself. Question: prosecutors came out in New Jersey and said, no, we are not bound by law not to be able to share it. In fact, we do if there's independent investigations going on by private entities. We have the discretion to share it. That's not true that we weren't legally allowed to. Also, we all know who the NFL employs in terms of former FBI agents, law enforcement, etc. Do you believe it naive to suggest that the league, A, if they wanted to, couldn't have seen the video, and B, now that prosecutors are coming forward saying we did share the video, that somebody didn't see this?
The NFL is caught between admitting they're lying or they're incompetent. And neither one is a good choice. If you're asking me, did Roger Goodell see the video and pretend he didn't, the answer is I don't think that happened.
No, I don't either.
So somewhere within the NFL, there was a ceiling, a block, a cap put on this thing, and that person's in trouble.
How about, though, where does the buck stop given this? Should it go to the top?
It's a very good question. And as you know from other incidents, be they political or elsewise, I'm a great believer in letting the facts get out, making a judgment, and I'm not a great believer in the death penalty. But because we don't know the level of culpability yet, we don't know who did it, it's for my mind, too soon to say this guy has to quit, this guy can never play football again. And I'm a great believer if the perpetrator repents, seeks forgiveness, is forgiven, and wants to be constructive, I'm a great believer in second chances.
But Richard, you talked about the NFL being between that rock and the hard place. I would argue that's true for the prosecutors and for Ray Rice too, because they all had the ability. It's a casino elevator. Everybody knew that there was more video, and everybody knew that there was much more to this, or they could have found out more. And it seemed like none of the vested parties had any interest in pursuing it. Why? Because the sense that I get is that everybody just wanted it to go away. But it's clearly there was additional information that was available had anybody decided to take action on it, and the prosecutors gave him a slap on the wrist.
And I spoke, by the way, to a prosecutor. I'm sorry to interrupt. Let you go and say it. I spoke to a prosecutor with a very similar criminal division, albeit in a different jurisdiction, yesterday, who said, we never have video when we try and prosecute these cases. If you have video, whether or not his then fiancee, now wife, chose to press charge against the husband, it doesn't matter. You should have definitely been able to get more than diversionary, a diversionary program form and probation as a punishment.
We all know how much of a casino is covered by cameras.
Right.
I mean,
I just have the question. You said everybody decides to push it under the table, but who is everybody? I mean, it could be a single person at the NFL that saw it. We'll find out. I think the NFL is doing the appropriate thing with bringing an investigator in. I think that was a good move. I agree with Richard. There's no reason to believe that Roger Goodell would lie.
I think it'll be interesting, don't you think, Bill? Was it the owners who said, let's bring in an independent person on this, or was it Goodell who was part of the conversation? Because if the owners right now are saying they also want CYA and a cutout, that in the end they're going to say, we're taking this seriously, we're making a change even up to the commissioner level. There's been a lot of people who say.
But what does it mean to be responsible for this? If there was no lie, but there was malfeasance, misfeasance, a deliberate attempt to ignore, does that mean that Roger Goodell is not fit to serve as commissioner of the NFL?
No,
It's a very
I don't.
hard
But I will
He's
tell you
been a
what's
very good
bothered me
commissioner.
about this story from the beginning has been the absence of courage by anyone in terms of an entity. Okay, and I've done a lot with organizations in this program related to domestic violence, and the one thing that I maybe knew but didn't fully realize was the victim has so few places to go in that. For whether it be emotional, psychological, or economical, or practical. In this particular case, nobody really looked out for this woman first and foremost. The prosecutors didn't, certainly her fiance didn't, the league didn't in issuing a 2-game suspension. But my point is, the prosecutors could have taken a more proactive stand. The league, let's face it, they did a 2-game suspension in the world screen before even the video came out. And only after the video came out did they decide to show some courage. And then the league, and then his own team cut him loose. The hypocrisy of this is gagging.
Here's the good news, the only good news in this. This is going to change American attitudes towards domestic violence.
I want you to be right.
It already has. And it is the thing that will switch people's perceptions from this is a thing that should be swept under the rug both collectively and individually into we got to do something.
But when those Fox and Friends folks say, you know what, hey, the lesson out of this is go take the stairs the next day, I'm not so sure they're the outliers.
Turn off Fox and Friends. That's the answer. That's
into a lot of
that's
problems.
domestic abuse of a different kind. There's a something good's going to come out of this.
I got a tough question. And I know his answer on this, innocent until proven guilty.
I'm leaving.
But you have other NFL players, as we speak right now, who are facing domestic violence charges. I believe a contract is a contract. You're innocent until proven guilty. But teams do have a choice. They can say, you'll get a paycheck, but you're not going to wear my uniform and go on the field.
I think that's exactly what Richard was just saying, is that this will have an impact on the discussion nationally. I think it will have an impact in all sports, where if there are cases of this, they're now going to be highlighted. The public is going to demand some change on it, and teams aren't going to be able to bear the pressure.
Would you suspend your player or even just not let him suit up if there's a pending case against him where there's domestic violence?
Because in the end, on Sunday,
it depends on the evidence.
Does he deny it? There is an allegation.
There's one particular case where he was actually convicted, but in North Carolina, you have the right to a jury trial, and he's appealed, and he's going to get that.
I don't want to get into individual cases.
That's a specific one.
I don't think the NFL should be bound by the question of legal conviction. If they're satisfied that the evidence is strong enough to make whatever business decisions they want. They don't have to wait.
But we're not talking about the league here. We're talking about an individual team and an individual owner. And are you putting
honor his contract? You know what? Don't let him play.
Or don't honor his contract if you have evidence like this. But these are individual cases that the system will check this out, modify itself. In the end, there'll be infinitely less silent tolerance for these behaviors than there was in the past.
You're a team owner. It's your public image of you and your team versus how much you want to win the game. That's the decision.
If I'm the Panthers, Hardy's not playing for me. I understand this is a contract. We're going to let this play up, but in the meantime, he's not the face of my franchise. Okay, when we come back here, we did have elections this week here, primaries, Democratic primary over, as you know, and only 9% of state Democrats actually voted in the election. Are the Democrats drowning, and can the GOP convert progressive Democrats ahead come November? I'm sure we'll get two different answers to that question. Stay with us.